from Washington. Congressman Bob Filner from California to the left. At this moment, we're going to take a moment of silence. Senator Paul Coverdell passed away at 6 p.m. this evening. So if we could have a moment of silence, please. Agenda, we will be hearing from Senator Paul Sarbanes from Maryland.
I'm very pleased to be back with you again this year for the Indian American Friendship Council's annual national conference as we mark the 53rd independence celebration of India. I must say at the outset, you've been able to do what no member of the House has been able to do, and that is to get Gary Ackerman to give his speech in a shorter period of time. If you would transmit that secret to us, I think we could make effective use of it in the House of Representatives. I see all of my colleagues nodding on that observation. I want to congratulate your president, Chris Reddy, and all of those who work with him, your officers, for your very hard work, not only in organizing this event, but for the activities of the Indian American Friendship Council. Your efforts actually to draw people into political participation and civic responsibility are enormously important, and we're very grateful to you for it. A few years ago, I made a trip to India, as many of you know, with Secretary of Commerce, William Bill Daley. He's no longer Secretary of Commerce, you know, he's now going on to run the Gore campaign, which is very encouraging to many of us. But on that trip, the Secretary and I, on the way back talking about it, said, you know, we've really got to get the President to come and visit. That would be a major breakthrough. Clinton had already indicated his interest in coming. And so upon my return, we've worked, actually, I think all of the members that were here introduced have joined in one way or another in recent times in urging the President to make that trip. And obviously we were right. The President had an enormously successful trip. I think, as Gary Ackerman said, it was a breakthrough in the relationship between our two countries. I think it placed India at the top of the policy agenda in this country, so that the American... We need to make the American public understand the importance of the relationship in developing the relationship between the United States and India. And I think the President's visit obviously was a major contribution in that regard. You know, we may be the world's oldest continuous constitutional democracy. India is the world's largest, and to have almost 1 billion people and to be able to stage an election after election with great success is a real accomplishment. In fact, the National Endowment for Democracy only recently held a conference on trying to develop democracy throughout the world and sort of show countries how they could move down the democratic path. And they chose to hold that conference in India because they thought India was a model example of what needed to be done by other countries around the world. It really does serve as an inspiration. We're now encouraged by the growing economic ties between our countries. The United States is India's leading trading partner, its primary foreign investment. We look forward to developing stronger economic and trade ties. And finally, just let me close by thanking the Indian American community for the tremendous contribution you're making to our own society. In my own state of Maryland, Indian Americans are really at the forefront of our technology boom, both in biotech and in high technology application. The Indian American business community is growing with great vigor and vitality, and they've brought a sort of a contribution to the economic and social life of my state that we're extremely grateful for. So I'm pleased to come back and to be with you. I'm going to relinquish Senate time to the relief of my House colleagues, I'm sure. And I wish you well in your efforts. You're making a major contribution and we really want to congratulate you and thank you for it. Thank you very much.
One more person who we forgot to garland, and I do apologize, is my ambassador, Mr. Naresh Chandra. At this point, I'd like to call upon Mr. Ben Gilman.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and Your Excellency, Ambassador Naresh Chandra, my good colleagues in the House and Senate. You've got almost a quorum here tonight. We could conduct some business before we're done. I want to thank President Reddy and welcome the Indian American Friendship Council, all of you, to Washington and to Capitol Hill once again. It's always a pleasure to break bread with you, and you'll forgive me if I have to run on after my remarks. We've got too crowded an agenda tonight. We look forward to always discussing how best we can strengthen our ties between India and our own nation, and to learn about the special concerns that Indian Americans have for their home country. Americans and Indians in both of our governments share important principles that form the basis of our two societies. And our governments are dedicated to the protection of the rule of law, to democracy, and to freedom of religion. And our citizens' fervent faith in those core values are what brings our two peoples so closely together. It's also why India and our nation see eye to eye on so many regional concerns. China's hegemony, the spread of Islamic terrorism spilling out of Afghanistan and Pakistan, the narco-dictatorship in Burma, the occupation of Tibet, and I want to commend India for giving a safe haven to His Holiness the Dalai Lama for their government. These are all serious concerns to both of our nations, and regrettably, the State Department creates confusion among our friends and allies in Asia by promoting a strategic partnership with China, and by urging the Congress to lift the arms sales embargo against Pakistan, a militaristic nation that spreads terrorism throughout South Asia, by their support of the Taliban and other repressive forces. Our State Department, regrettably, has done little to restore democracy in Burma or end the drug exports from that nation, and has accomplished even less for the gentle people of occupied Tibet. And while Pakistan was going through its recent coup, the State Department managed to successfully push legislation through the Congress that would permit the White House to lift the arms embargo against Pakistan. If Pakistan's invasion of Kashmir last year was not enough to convince the administration that a military relationship with Pakistan made little sense, the military coup in Pakistan was certainly not a reason for sending American military equipment to that nation. That coup should have sent the exact opposite message to policymakers at the State Department. As we're all aware, Prime Minister Vajpayee will be visiting our nation in September, and our Committee on International Relations and the U.S. Congress looks forward to meeting with the Prime Minister during his important visit. And just last week, I wrote to our House leadership urging them to invite the Prime Minister to address a joint session of the Congress when he visits Washington in September. And in my letter to Speaker Hastert, I noted that the Prime Minister's visit comes on the heels of the historic visit of President Clinton to India in March of this year, during which President Clinton was accorded the honor of addressing a joint session of the Indian Parliament. So the least we can do is to reciprocate. India, already the world's 5th largest economy, is one of our biggest trading partners today. I know my good colleague Sam Gadenson took a trade mission to India not too long ago, a very successful trade mission. Our many shared values and commitment to democracy make us natural allies in the pursuit of peace and stability in that part of the world. During the March visit to India, President Clinton and Prime Minister of India signed a joint declaration outlining our many common interests and objectives. An invitation to the Prime Minister to address a joint session of the Congress will afford all of our members the opportunity to hear the important issues between the U.S. and India's bilateral relationship, including trade, energy, investment, science, information technology, as well as cooperative efforts to combat terrorism and to achieve regional peace and security in South Asia, a region of prime importance to our own national interests. So in closing, let me say, as the current Indian government works to make certain that India remains secure, I believe we need to be marching shoulder to shoulder with India into the next century. Our two nations should begin to talk about forming an alliance with each other on all levels of mutual interest, political, economic, and militarily. And we look forward to working with the Indian-American Friendship Council on this important endeavor, and I hope that our joint initiatives are going to bring peace and stability to that important region of the world. Welcome again to Washington and to the United States Congress, and may you have a good visit. God bless.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, the next person we'll be hearing from this evening is Mr. Sam Gadenson.
Thank you very much. To put my colleagues and all of you here tonight at ease, I'll try to keep my remarks brief. One, because Indian food is my favorite food, and I've been told by Nisha Desai, my staffer in this area, that we're going to get an Indian meal tonight, and I don't want to hold it up. I'm a little concerned when I see this many members of Congress at the head table. I can only think of a night some years ago where late into the evening I was introduced about 11:30 after 15 or 20 other speakers, and I stole a story from a friend of mine who told the story of during the days of the Romans, a young Jew was thrown into the arena to be eaten by a lion. And the lion rushed over, and the Jew whispered something in the lion's ear, and the lion ran away. And the king, quite annoyed by this, summoned a hungrier lion. And once again, the lion ran up to this young Jewish man, and he whispered something in the lion's ear, and the lion ran away. Finally, the king, in great frustration, ordered the hungriest, meanest lion in the kingdom. And the same thing happened again. Finally, the king, frustrated by his inability for entertainment, said that he would let this young Jewish man go if he would only tell him what he was saying to the lion. And the young man said, "Your Majesty, I simply said that if you eat me, it's a Jewish meal, and you have to stay for the speeches." My sense is this may apply to Indians as well. You know, the Americans and the Indians do share a tremendous amount, as my colleagues have pointed out. We both started our existence by chasing out the British. We kept their language, which was an excellent move. And we've developed with solid democratic institutions committed to a similar set of jurisprudence and a commitment to due process and diversity in our society. When America thinks of diversity, it can't imagine the amount of diversity that exists in India. For my part, I was at a very early age convinced that there was only one position, and that was friendship for India, because my congressman, who had been twice ambassador to India, was Chester Bowles.